Tim. I'm up from Brisbane. I'm part of Bitcoin Brisbane, help run the Bush Bash, and have been a keen fan of Lightning since I started playing with it in about tail end of 2018, where everything was hashtag reckless because it was slightly above experimental Rusty, but it was still pretty risky. I'm just waiting for some slides. They're going to come up in a minute, I'm sure. There we go. There we go. All right. So money is generally viewed as having four major functions: store of value, medium of exchange, unit of account, system of control. That little definition comes from Andreas Antonopoulos. I really quite like that. Lightning is all about helping Bitcoin become a better medium of exchange. Can I stay in the middle of the stage? Yeah, sure. Okay, so Lightning is what's called an open protocol, an open software protocol. So software protocols are generally accepted rules implemented by software, and they're open, so everyone can use them. There's no enforcement, there's no optionality in terms of which rules you run, which rules you don't run. You're running the rules or you're not running the rules. Similar to Bitcoin. You can make change, but if you want to make change, you've got to get consensus. That's pretty much Rusty's day job. Good fun. And the other thing about open protocols, and some of you may have heard Jack Mallers talk about this, is open protocols are the most resilient and result in the most powerful network effects. So examples of that: TCP/IP, upon which the whole of the internet is built, hypertext transfer protocol, simple mail transfer protocol. Who's ever used email? You've used SMTP. Who's ever typed a domain name into your browser? You've used DNS. And the reason those things are so ubiquitous and so powerful and so widely adopted is because they are open protocols. So Lightning is an open protocol too, just like Bitcoin. So ultimately, Lightning is Bitcoin's rapid payment layer. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's more private and instantly settled. And it leverages Bitcoin security on the base layer. So I always like the question of, when someone says it's better than what? So Lightning is faster than Bitcoin's base layer. It's cheaper than Bitcoin's base layer. Asterisk. There are times when that's not necessarily the case. It's more private. It's more private than Bitcoin's base layer. Is it perfectly private? No. Is it more private? Definitely. And it's instantly settled. So what do we mean by settled? Because settled is not a common usage word, but it does have a big meaning of finance. So if I take this lobster here and I buy something from T-Bone and I give him the $20 and he takes the $20, that's settled. We're done. Because cash is a bearer asset. To hold the cash is to own the cash, and so if I transfer the cash, we're done. Now, by contrast, if I buy something from Rusty and Rusty gives me a bank account and I transfer money into the bank account, or more to the point, I send it from my bank account, then it's gone from me. As far as I'm concerned, it's settled. But it's been paid on the Visa network. Rusty will get that money as a vendor 7 days later, maybe. So as far as Rusty's concerned, it's settled after 7 days. Except I can then go back and say, hey, wait a minute, Rusty never sent me the thing that he said he was going to send. And Visa goes, oh, that's dreadful. And so I go to Rusty's account and they take the money back out. So it's not until about 90 days after I've made that $20 payment that, as far as Rusty is concerned in the existing financial system, that it's settled. Lightning settlement is instant. That's a really important thing. So what Lightning does, because it's a faster payment layer, is it helps Bitcoin scale for global use. And that argument about how do we get Bitcoin to scale for global use has been going on for some time. So in the base layer, blocks can be thought of as shipping containers. I think Nick Carter came up with that analogy, and I quite like that. So blocks happen around about every 10 minutes, and they have for the last 14 or 15 years. There's around about 3,000 transactions in a block. It's highly stable on the base layer. It's highly secure because that's what Bitcoin optimizes for. And it's highly available. So there are no times when you can't transmit a Bitcoin transaction. So let's just have a little jump in here. David, do you want to bring that up? Yeah. So this is a site called Bitfeed, created by Mononaut, and this shows the live Bitcoin network. So you can see in the central part there's a picture of the last block that was mined, and these little falling blocks are a depiction of all the new transactions coming into the Bitcoin network. Everything under that little dotted line is what's sitting in what's called the mempool. And so you can visualize everybody's transactions waiting to be mined into a block, and all the miners are working away to try and be the miner that solves the block and get the block subsidy and the block reward. I love this because I'm a visual person, so I'm going to make a donation to these guys. So in the bottom corner there, we can see, yeah, we can do this. So I'm going to request an invoice. There's a live demo. What can possibly go wrong? Is it going to work on an angle? There we go. Nope, it still worked. So this is a payment of 2,500 sats, about $1. So I'm hitting the send button. And there we go, paid. So this is us donating to Mononaut. We're not going through a payment processor. We're not going to a bank. This is directly going into a wallet that he controls, or she controls. I've got no idea who it is. Let's do another donation. So this time, instead of doing 2,500 sats, we're going to do 1 sat. 1 sat. So this is about, what, a 20th or a 200th of a cent. And so this is a payment that you cannot make in the existing financial system. So the cost for me to make this payment is 0. So the interesting thing about that, and we can just go back to the slides, the interesting thing about that is Bitcoin and Lightning enable you to pay someone directly without an intervening party. Lightning leverages the security of the Bitcoin base layer, which is what Bitcoin's base layer optimizes for, but it means we can make those snappy payments for important things like beer and pizza and coffee and other small transactions. So whilst Bitcoin on the base layer has no limit to the value we can transact, Lightning does tend to have a practical limit at the moment. Easy up to $500, probably $1,000 works most of the time. Above that, you're probably going to use the base layer. Okay. So yeah, so the base layer is very much solid foundations focused on security. If you are good at doing math in your head, and I'm looking at you up the back, Dunworth, that does not include me. 3,000 transactions in a block, 10-minute blocks, we're talking about 400,000 transactions a day. So who wants to have a punt at how many financial transactions are done on a daily basis at the moment? Anyone? Lots, yes. More than 10 million. A billion is about right. Yeah, a billion. Now let's remember that about a third of the global population has access to the financial system, about a third too young to transact, and the other third don't have access to the financial system, yet they'll be doing financial transactions, but they'll be doing it with cash or barter. So the importance of being able to increase the number of payments that we can do in Bitcoin is pretty important. Lightning is globally connected. There's around about 16,000 public nodes and about 84,000 public channels with about 5,500 Bitcoin in capacity. Now, when I first started using the Bitcoin Lightning Network, there were around about 50 Bitcoin on the network, so not very many. I don't think there was more than about 200 nodes, and channels, got no idea. So you can see that I've written there public nodes and public channels. So nodes can be public or private. When they're private, they're not completely hidden, they're just a lot harder to find. But in those stats, the private nodes and the private channels don't show up. But in this little graph here, and we can open this one up, this is a map of the Lightning Network, or the public ones anyway, overlaid by geography. So if we click on any one of these little nodes, which are the little dots, this shows us all the other nodes in the different parts of the world that that specific node is connected to. So if we follow down one of those channels and click another one, we can see that it's connected to a whole bunch of other random nodes. Now, they may appear random to us, but there'll probably be people known to the person who's operating that node. And we can click on this one. And that's connected to lots. So it is in this way that my payment here can go to Mononaut, who runs Bitfeed, and I've got no idea where he is, nor does it matter. The nodes connected to each other, like the idea of 7 degrees of separation for people on the planet, it's about 5 degrees of separation for Bitcoin Lightning nodes across the globe. So that's a little visualization of the network. The network is obviously growing at a fairly fantastic rate at the moment. I think it's doubled in the last 18 months. As payments become more important and more people are doing more payments. Okay, so let's do a little comparison between on-chain and Lightning. So on-chain, highly secure, reliable, fees based on the block space, payments made to addresses, blocks every 10 years. Blocks every 10 years, God, that would require a lot of patience. Blocks every 10 minutes. And transactions are publicly and permanently visible. Contrasted to Lightning, leverages Bitcoin's on-chain security. It's increasingly reliable. Fees are based on transaction value, not on size. So if you're doing larger value, then you will pay a little bit more in fees, sometimes as much as a cent or two. Payments can be for addresses, but also for invoices. We saw before, we brought up an invoice, we paid the invoice. There are ways to send Lightning to an address as well now. Essentially unbounded transaction volume. The engineers and the pedants in the room will probably slap me for saying unbounded. I'll live with that. And instant transaction settlement versus the settlement via block times. Constant growth and transactions are considerably more private. So layer 1 versus layer 2. Both Bitcoin, no tokens, either on-chain or on Lightning. It's Satoshis or Bitcoin that are being transacted or used or paid. So, if you're curious about Lightning, a couple of easy ways to try. Wallet of Satoshi, built in Brisbane, which is where I'm from, God's own country. Available on iOS and Android, fast and simple. It's custodial, which means they are custodying your Bitcoin. Breeze and Phoenix, also available on both the major mobile platforms, not custodial, so tend to be a little bit more complex to set up, but you have control of your Lightning. Vault Pay. Yes. Could be that the author of that is in the audience. Also available on iOS and Android, and is merchant focused. So if you're a merchant, a hairdresser, a butcher, because I happen to have orange pilled my hairdresser and my butcher, and you want a simple way to be able to accept Lightning, then Vault Pay could be for you. The best way, of course, build your own node and connect to something like Zeus or Zap. Want to learn more? Lots of resources, and that's me. Thank you very much.